15, the principle centered paradigm. The character ethic is based on the fundamental idea that there are principles that govern human effectiveness, natural laws in the human dimension that are just as real, just as unchanging, and unarguably there as laws such as gravity are in the physical dimension. An idea of the reality and the impact of these principles can be captured in another paradigm shifting experience as told by Frank Koch on Proceedings, the magazine of the Naval Institute. Two battleships assigned to the training squadron had been at sea on maneuvers in heavy weather for several days. I was serving on the lead battleship and was on watch on the bridge as night fell. The visibility was poor with patchy fog, so the captain remained on the bridge, keeping an eye on all activities. Shortly after dark, the lookout on the wing of the bridge reported light bearing on the starboard bow. Is it steady or moving astern? The captain called out. Lookout replied, steady, captain, which meant we were on dangerous collision course with that ship. The captain then called to the signalman, signal that ship. We are on a collision course. Advise your change course 20 degrees. Back came a signal. Advisable for you to change course 20 degrees. The captain said, send. I am a captain. Change course 20 degrees. I am a seaman second class, came the reply. You had better change course 20 degrees. By that time, the captain was furious. He spat out, send. I am battleship. Change course 20 degrees. Back came the flashing light. I am lighthouse. We changed course. The A paradigm shift is the aha experience associated with finally perceiving or understanding some aspect of the world or a circumstance in a different way. Paradigm shift experienced by the captain and by us as we read this account puts the situation in a totally different light. We can see a reality this is suppressed by his limited perceptions, a reality that is as critical for us to understand in our daily lives as it was for the captain in the fog. Principles are like lighthouses, they are natural laws that cannot be broken. As Cecil B. DeMille observed of the principles contained in his monumental movie, The Ten Commandments. It is impossible for us to break the law. We can only break ourselves against the law. While individuals may look at their own lives and interactions in terms of paradigms or maps emerging out of their experience and conditioning, these maps are not the territory. They are subjective reality, only an attempt to describe the territory. The objective reality or the territory itself is composed of lighthouse principles that govern human growth and happiness, natural laws that are woven into the fabric of every civilized society throughout history and comprise the roots of every family and institution that has endured and prospered. The degree to which our mental maps accurately describe the territory does not alter its existence. The reality of such principles or natural laws becomes obvious to anyone who thinks deeply and examines the cycles of social history. These principles surface time and time again, and the degree to which people in society recognize and live in harmony with them moves them toward either survival and stability or disintegration and destruction. The principles I am referring to are not esoteric, mysterious, or religious ideas. There is not one principle taught in this book that is unique to any specific faith or religion, including my own. These principles are a part of every major enduring religion as well as enduring social philosophies and ethical systems. They are self evident and can easily be validated by any individual. It's almost as if these principles or natural laws are part of the human condition, part of the human consciousness, part of the human conscience. They seem to exist in all human beings, regardless of social conditioning and loyalty to them, even though they might be submerged or numbed by conditions or disloyalty. I am referring, for example, to the principle of fairness, out of which our whole concept of equity and justice is developed. Little children seem to have an innate sense of the idea of fairness, even apart from opposite conditioning experiences. They are vast different, there are, excuse me, there are vast differences in how fairness is defined and achieved, but there is almost universal awareness of the idea. Other examples would include integrity and honesty. They create the foundation of trust, which is essential to cooperation and long term personal and interpersonal growth. Another principle is human dignity. The basic concept in the United States Declaration of Independence bespeaks this value or principle. We hold these truths to be self evident that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Another principle is service or the idea of making a contribution. Another is quality or excellence. There is the principle of potential, the idea that we are embryonic and can grow and develop and release more and more potential, develop more and more talents. Highly related to potential is the principle of growth, the process of releasing potential and developing talents, with the accompanying need for principles such as patience, nurturance, and encouragements. Principles are not practices. A practice is a specific activity or action. A practice that works in one circumstance will not necessarily work in another. As parents who have tried to raise a second child exactly like they did the first one can readily attest. While practices are situationally specific, principles are deep, fundamental truths that have universal application. They apply to individuals, to marriages, to families, to private and public organizations of every kind. When these truths are internalized into habits, they empower people to create a wide variety of practices to deal with different situations. While practices are situationally specific, principles are deep, fundamental truths that have universal application. They apply to individuals, to marriages, to families, to private and public organizations of every kind. When these truths are internalized into habits, they empower people to create a wide variety of practices to deal with different situations. Principles are not values. A gang of thieves can share values, but they are in violation of the fundamental principles we are talking about. Principles are the territory, values are maps. When we value correct principles, we have truth, a knowledge of things as they are. Principles are guidelines for human conduct that are proven to have enduring permanent value. They are fundamental. They're essentially unarguable because they are self evident. One way to quickly grasp the self evident nature of principles is to simply consider the absurdity of attempting to live an effective life based on their opposites. I doubt that anyone would seriously consider unfairness, deceit, baseness, uselessness, mediocrity, or degeneration to be a solid foundation for lasting happiness and success. Although people may argue about how these principles are defined or manifested or achieved, There seems to be an innate consciousness and awareness that they exist. The more closely our maps or paradigms are aligned with these principles or natural laws, the more accurate and functional they will be. Correct maps will infinitely impact our personal and interpersonal effectiveness far more than any amount of effort expended on changing our attitudes and behaviors. Hi, Kanti ma'am.
Sorry, sir, I'm actually out, so I'm just listening in. I can't speak.
Okay, okay, no worries. I'll talk
I'm
to,
just listening.
uh,
Pause, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Sorry, I can't
No,
participate because I'm traveling, but I didn't want to miss the reading.
no problem. It's great that you are actually participating by listening as well.
Yes,
It's
thank you so much.
no worries, ma'am. Hi, Fauzia.
Hi, sir.
How did you find this particular text? Did you find it? Did you make a note of any particular words that you found difficult or wanted to discuss about?
Mm, I've listened what you have told, and some of the spellings and which I was not able to pronounce, you have pronounced correctly. So I have noted down that those things.
Can you give me one or two words that you have you found difficult?
Yeah.
Can you tell me those words?
And the page number 16,
Okay,
principles contained in his movies, monumental movies, that one,
okay, okay.
and in the prin-
So here they are talking about a movie, The Ten Commandments. So they are
mm,
saying it is a monumental movie. So the word monumental described as something that is uh, big, great. They're talking about the quality of the movie here.
mm,
So the entire passage that they are talking about is about what the principles are and what values can be and how important values are in our lives.
uh,
Do you want to discuss more about it? Do you have anything to share?
like this paragraph is about uh, principles, leaderships, and illustrate importance of humanity and
Mhm.
fundamental truths based on this.
Yeah, you can say principles that are based on values, where they say values are maps, the direction, the way to go, the guidelines to follow. You understand guidelines, how we are supposed to respect those, right? For leading a
Mm,
better life.
mm,
So that's what they're talking about.
yes.
Okay, so let's move on to next, where it says the principles of growth and change. Or you're on the same page?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'll start reading.
Yes.
Okay, principles of growth and change. The glitter of the personality ethic, the massive appeal, is that there is some quick and easy way to achieve quality of life, personal effectiveness, and rich, deep relationships with other people without going through the natural process of work and growth that makes it possible. It's symbol without substance. It's the get rich quick scheme promising wealth without work, and it might even appear to succeed, but the schemer remains. The personality ethic is illusory and deceptive and trying to get high quality results with its techniques and quick fixes is just about as effective as trying to get to some place in Chicago using a map of Detroit. In the words of Eric Fromm, an astute observer of the roots and fruits of the personality ethic, today we come across an individual who behaves like an automaton who does not know or understand himself, and the only person that he knows is the person that he is supposed to be, whose meaningless chatter has replaced communicative speech, whose synthetic smile has replaced genuine laughter, and whose sense of dull despair has taken the place of genuine pain. Two statements may be said concerning this individual: one, that he suffers from defects of spontaneity and individuality, which may seem to be incurable. At the same time, it may be said of him, he does not differ essentially from the millions of the rest of us who walk upon this earth. In all of life, there are sequential stages of growth and development. A child learns to turn over, to sit up, to crawl, and then to walk and run. Each step is important and each one takes time. No step can be skipped. This is true in all phases of life, in all areas of development, whether it be learning to play the piano or communicate effectively with a working associate. It is true with individuals, with marriages, with families, and with organizations. We know and accept this fact or principle of process in the area of physical things, but to understand it in emotional areas, in human relations, and even in the area of personal character is less common and more difficult. And even if we understand it, to accept it and to live in harmony with it are even less common and more difficult. Consequently, we sometimes look for a shortcut, expecting to be able to skip some of these vital steps in order to save time and effort and still reap the desired result. But what happens when we attempt to shortcut a natural process in our growth and development? If you are only an average tennis player but decide to play at a high higher level in order to make a better impression, what will be the result? Would positive thinking alone enable you to compete effectively against a professional? What if you were to lead your friends to believe you could play the piano at concert hall level while your actual present skills was that of a beginner? The answer are the answers are obvious. It is simply impossible to violate, ignore, or shortcut this development process. It is contrary to nature, and attempting to seek such a shortcut only results in disappointment and frustration. On a 10-point scale, if I am at level 2 in any field and desire to move to level 5, I must first take the step toward level 3. A 1,000-mile journey begins with the first step and can only be taken one step at a time. If you don't let a teacher know what level you are by asking a question or revealing your ignorance, you will not learn or grow. You cannot pretend for long, for you will eventually be found out. Admission of ignorance is often the first step in our education. Thoreau taught, how can we remember our ignorance, which our growth requires when we are using our knowledge all of the time? I recall one occasion when two young women, daughters of a friend of mine, came to me tearfully, complaining about their father's harshness and lack of understanding. They were afraid to open up with their parents for fear of the consequences. and yet they desperately needed their parents' love, understanding, and guidance. I talked with the father and found that he was intellectually aware of what was happening, but while he admitted he had a temper problem, he refused to take responsibility for it and to honestly accept the fact that his emotional development level was low. It was more than his pride could swallow to take the first step toward change. To relate effectively with a wife, a husband, children, friends, or working associates, we must learn to listen. And this requires emotional strength. Listening involves patience, openness, and the desire to understand highly developed qualities of character. It's so much easier to operate from a low emotional level uh, to give high level advice. Our level of development is fairly obvious with tennis or piano playing, where it is impossible to pretend, but it is not so obvious in the areas of character and emotional development. We can pose and put on for a stranger or an associate. We can pretend, and for a while we can get by with it, at least in public. We might even deceive ourselves. Yet I believe that most of us know the truth of what we really are inside, and I think many of those we live with and work with do as well. I have seen the consequences of attempting to shortcut this natural process of growth, often in the business world, where executives attempt to buy a new culture of improved productivity, quality, morale, and customer service with the strong speeches, smile training, and external interventions, or through mergers, acquisitions, and friendly or unfriendly takeovers, but they ignore the low trust climate produced by such manipulations. When these methods don't work, they look for other personality ethic techniques that will all the time ignoring and violating the natural principles and processes on which high trust culture is based. I remember violating this principle myself as a father many years ago. One day I returned home to my little girl's third year birthday party to find her in the corner of the front home to my sorry in the corner of the front room, defiantly clutching all of her presents, unwillingly to let the other children play with them. The first thing I noticed was several parents in the room witnessing this selfish display. I was embarrassed and dou- doubly so because at that time I was teaching university classes in human relations and I knew or at least felt the expectations of these parents. The atmosphere in the room was really charged. The children were crowding around my little daughter with their hands out, asking to play with the presents they had just given. And my daughter was adamantly refusing. I said to myself, certainly I should teach my daughter to share. The value of sharing is one of the most basic things we believe in. So I first tried a simple request. Honey, would you please share with your friends the toys they have given you? No, she replied flatly. My second method was to use this little reasoning. Honey, if you learn to share your toys with them when they are at your home, then when you go to their homes, they will share their toys with you. Again, the immediate reply was no. I was becoming a little more embarrassed, for it was evident I was having no influence. The third method was bribery. Very softly, I said, honey, if you share, I've got special surprise for you. I have I'll give you a piece of gum. I don't want gum. She exploded. Now I was becoming exasperated. For my fourth attempt, I restored to fear and threat. Unless you share, you will be in real trouble. I don't care, she cried. These are my things. I don't have to share. Finally, I resorted to force. I merely took some of the toys and gave them to other kids. Here, kids, play with these. But at that moment, I valued the opinion those parents had of me more than the growth and development of my child and our relationship together. I simply made an initial judgment that I was right, she should share, and she was wrong in not doing so. Perhaps I superimposed a higher level expectation on her simply because on my own scale I was at a lower level. I was unable or unwilling to give patience or understanding, so I expected her to give things. In an attempt to compensate for my deficiency, I borrowed strength from my position and authority and forced her to do what I wanted her to do. But borrowing strength builds weakness. It builds weakness in the borrower because it reinforces dependence on external factors to get things done. It builds weakness in the person forced to acquiesce, stunting the development of independent reasoning, growth, and internal discipline. And finally, it builds weakness in the relationship. Fear replaces cooperation, and both people involved become more arbitrary and defensive. And what happens when the source of borrowed strength, be it superior size or physical strength, position, authority, credentials, status symbols, appearance, or past achievements, changes or is no longer there? Had I been more mature, I could have relied on my own intrinsic strength, my understanding of sharing and of growth, and my capacity to love and nurture, and allowed my daughter to make a free choice as to whether she wanted to share or not to share. Perhaps, after attempting to reason with her, I could have turned the attention of the children to an interesting game, taking all the emotional pressure off my child. I have learned that once children gain a sense of real possession, they share very naturally, freely, and spontaneously. My experience has been that there are times to teach and times not to teach. When relationships are strained and the air changed with emotion, an attempt to teach is often perceived as a form of judgment and rejection. But to take the child alone quietly when the relationship is good and to discuss the teaching or the value seems to have much greater impact. It may have been that the emotional maturity to do that was beyond my level of patience and internal control at the time. Perhaps a sense of possessing needs to be no needs to come before a sense of genuine sharing. Many people who give mechanically or refuse to give and share in their marriages and families may never have experienced what it means to possess themselves, their own sense of identity and self worth. Really helping our children grow may involve being patient enough to allow them the sense of possession as well as being wise enough to teach them the value of giving and providing the example ourselves. Hello, Fozia.
Answer.
How was this part of the text or the chap?
Mm, impressive, sir.
What do you find interesting?
The way he first convinced her daughter to share the things, toys, but she did not share.
Mm-hmm,
Again, he requested little more bit in the second method, and
mm-hmm,
even she did not uh, try to give those things. And
mm-hmm,
the third, when he forced, then also she did not give. She started to cry. At
mm-hmm.
the fourth moment, finally, he took and he gave the toys to the other kids. He forced them.
Right. So
Mm,
he thinks that he failed. He finally thinks he should not have done it because
mm,
he should have given time and should have been patient with her children rather than forcing and giving the toys.
mm.
And there are two things that this chapter was talking about. One is, as you said, the relationship with his daughter, And one, the first part was about the importance of not finding shortcuts.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you remember? Let me read the text again. It
Mm.
says, so here there was a text which said about learning piano,
Mm.
and where he says, where if you are learning piano on telling your friends you can go to a event and play piano, but you are a beginner, that's not a shortcut one has to take.
Yeah.
One has to learn first, one has to slowly practice from level 0 1 and then go to 10, instead of faking the confidence and going to level 10. So practice and learning makes us perfect is what he's trying. And he says the
Mm.
principle of growth and change is important. So what do you understand the growth requires? Can you tell me in 2 lines what is this principle of growth?
The first thing is we need to do hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Like directly, we should not step into the success. We need to take
Okay.
small steps, small ideas. We need to implement. We need to try on that. We need to work on that. By doing small things, only we can go to the high one.
Exactly. And he talks about one step at a time.
Yeah.
So by doing this, we can achieve greatness by small steps, is what he's trying to say. So that was the first part. And the importance of sharing was the second part.
Mm.
Okay. So let's continue. The way we see the problem is the problem. People are intrigued when they see good things happening in the lives of individuals, families, and organizations that are based on solid principles. They admire such personal strength and maturity, such family unity and teamwork, such adaptive, synergistic organization, organizational culture, and their immediate request is very revealing of their basic paradigm. How do you do it? Teach me the techniques. What they are really saying is give me some quick fix, advice, or solution that will relieve the pain in my own situation. They will find people who will meet their wants and teach these things, and for a short time, skills and techniques may appear to work. They may eliminate some of the cosmetic or acute problems through social aspirin and band-aids. But the underlying chronic condition remains, and eventually new acute symptoms will appear. The more people are trying are into quick fix and focus on the acute problems and pain, the more that very approach contributes to the underlying chronic condition. The way we see the problem is the problem. Again, the same. Okay, look again at some of the concerns that introduce this chapter at the impact of personality ethic thinking. I have taken course after course on effective management training. I expect a lot out of my employees and I work hard to be friendly toward them and to treat them right, but I don't feel any loyalty from them. I think if I were homesick for a day, they would spend most of their time gabbing at the water fountain. Why can't I train them to be independent and responsible, or find employees who can be? The personality ethic tells me I could take some kind of dramatic action, shake things up, make heads roll that would make my employees shape up and appreciate what they have. Or that I could find some motivational training program that would get them committed, or even that I could hire new people that would do a better job. But is it possible that under that apparently disloyal behavior, these employees question whether I really act in their best interest? Do they feel like I'm treating them as mechanical objects? Is there some truth to that? Deep inside, is that really the way I see them? Is there a chance the way I look at the people who work for me is a part of the problem? There is so much to do, and there is never enough time. I feel pressured and hassled all day, every day, 7 days a week. I have attended time management seminars and I have tried half a dozen different planning systems. They have helped some, but I still don't feel I am living the happy, productive, peaceful life I want to live. The personality ethic tells me that there must be something out there, some new planner or seminar that will help me handle all these pressures in a more efficient way. But is there a chance that efficiency is not the answer? Is getting more things done in less time going to make a difference? Or will it just increase the pace at which I react to the people and circumstances that seem to control my life? Could there be something I need to see in a deeper, more fundamental way, some paradigm within myself that affects the way I see my time and my life and my own nature? My marriage has gone flat. We don't fight or anything. We just don't love each other anymore. We have gone to counseling. We have tried a number of things, but we just can't seem to rekindle the feeling we used to have. The personality ethic tells me there must be some new book or some seminar where people get all their feelings out that would help my wife understand me better. Or maybe that it's useless and only a new relationship will provide the love I need. But is it possible that my spouse isn't the real problem? Could I be empowering my spouse's weaknesses and making my life a function of the way I am treated? Do I have some basic paradigm about my spouse, about marriage, about what love really is that is feeding the problem? Can you see how fundamentally the paradigms of the personality ethic affect the very way we see our problems as well as the way we attempt to solve them? Whether people see it or not, many are becoming disillusioned with the empty promises of the personality ethic. As I travel around the country and work with organizations, I find that long term thinking executives are simply turned off by psychology and motivational speakers who have nothing more to share than entertaining stories mingled with platitudes. They want substance, they want process, they want more than aspirin and band-aids. They want to solve the chronic underlying problems and focus on principles that bring long-term results. Fauzia, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is running in your head right now? What do you think of this passage?
This is like how we see the problems.
Mm-hmm.
How we see the problems. The problems are not actually problems when we see from the solution side. Just we
Okay.
need to focus on something. Hello?
Yes, yes, I'm listening.
Yeah.
So you say we have to focus on solutions.
Yeah.
Right. Here, the writer also speaks about uh, quick fix solutions, like problems that can be uh, fixed quickly, solved quickly. Do you see?
Yeah. Yeah.
He does not appreciate that. He wants a proper plan where he can address the problem and focus on uh, re- resolving it in a long term basis and finding long term results. We will continue. A new level of thinking. Albert Einstein observed the significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. I'll read this again. Albert Einstein observed the significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. As we look around, as we look around us and within us and recognize the problems created as we live and interact within the personality ethic, we begin to realize that these are deep fundamental problems that cannot be solved on the superficial level on which they were created. We need a new level, a deeper level of thinking, a paradigm based on the principles that accurately describe the territory of effective human being and interacting to solve these deep concerns. This new level of thinking is what Seven Habits of Highly Effective People is about. It's a principle centered, character based, inside out approach to personal and interpersonal effectiveness. Inside out means to start first with self. Even more fundamentally, is to start with the most inside part of self, with your paradigms, with your characters, and your motives. It says if you want to have a happy marriage, be the kind of person who generates positive energy and sidesteps the negative energy rather than empowering. If you want to have a more pleasant, cooperative teenager, be a more understanding, empathic, consistent, loving parent. If you want to have more freedom, more latitude in your job, be a more responsible, a more helpful, a more contributing employee. If you want to be trusted, be trustworthy. If you want the secondary greatness of recognized talent, focus first on primary greatness of character. The inside out approach says that the private victories, TM, precede public victories, that making and keeping promises to ourselves precedes making and keeping promises to others. It says it is futile to put personality ahead of character, to try to improve relationships with others before improving ourselves. Inside out is a process, a continuing process of renewal based on the natural laws that govern human growth and progress. It's an upward spiral of growth that leads to progressively higher forms of responsible independence and effective independence. I have had the opportunity to work with many people, wonderful people, talented people, people who deeply want to achieve happiness and success, people who are searching, people who are hurting. They have worked with business executives, college students, church and civic groups, families, and marriage partners. And in all of my experience, I have never seen lasting solutions to problems, lasting happiness, and success that came from the outside in. What I have seen result from the outside in paradigm is unhappy people who feel victimized and immobilized, who focus on the weaknesses of other people and the circumstances they feel are responsible for their own stagnant situation. I have seen unhappy marriages where each spouse wants the other to change, where each is confessing the other's sins, where each is trying to shape up the other. I've seen labor management disputes where people spend tremendous amounts of time and energy trying to create legislation that would force people to act as though the foundation of trust were really there. Members of our family have lived in three of the hottest spots on earth: South Africa, Israel, and Ireland. And I believe the source of continuing problems in each of these places has been dominant and social paradigm of outside in, which each involved group is convinced that the problem is out there, and if they meaning others would shape up or suddenly ship out of existence, the problem would be solved. Inside out is a dramatic paradigm shift for most people, largely because of the powerful impact of conditioning and the current social paradigm of the personality ethic. But from my own experience, both personal and in working with thousands of other people, and from careful examination of successful individuals and societies throughout history, I am persuaded that many of the principles embodied in the seven habits are already deep within us in our own conscience and our common sense. To recognize and develop them and to use them in meeting our deepest concerns. We need to think differently to shift our paradigms to new, deeper, inside out level. As we sincerely seek to understand and integrate these principles into our lives, I'm convinced we will discover and rediscover the truth of T.S. Eliot's observation. We must not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we began and to know the place for the first time. Hi, Fauzia.
Sir.
What do you think? Did you find any word or any paragraph challenging, difficult?
Mm, yeah, the paragraph which it is in the page number 23. If you want to have a happy marriage life, to be a kind person who generates positive energy, this paragraph I really got impressive. This is very impressive
Mm-hmm.
one.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah,
So
and
here,
that
do you
Albert
see?
Einstein thought in the first even that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that is so nice, right? The way he has said that we should not be in the same uh, mindset, the mindset where we created the problem.
Yeah, yeah,
We should change from within. I mean, we
yeah.
should first find answers in our own self rather than outside world is what this paragraph is talking about. Did you understand what
Yeah,
inside out means?
yeah, yes.
Can you tell me what, in your own words, explain what you understood about inside out, the word inside out?
Inside means first we need to start from ourselves.
Mm-hmm,
Like first we need to think ourselves what we need to do, how we need to do, how we need to start and all.
mm-hmm.
And most of the inside parts, like our characteristics, should be motivated for ourselves. Like we need to
Okay,
do this, we need to do those things. Then only we can do these things. Yeah, like this one.
that's good. That's a great way of understanding things. Inside, we should seek the knowledge from inside. We should try to find solutions and look for what exactly is that we are doing wrong rather than telling this person has did this to me, he is wrong, she is wrong. First see what we are doing wrong and then think what can be changed or done about it. Okay, Fauzia, I think we have another 4 minutes left. We'll stop here for today.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you for participating, Fauzia.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Hello, Meera ma'am. Hello, Kanti ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, Kanti ma'am. Can we end it
I'm
here?
sorry I couldn't participate, and thank you so much for this.
No problem at all, ma'am. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. So good night.
We'll end. Yeah, good
Sandhya, you
night, ma'am.
can close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.